Not going to use a Bushism here. Barack Obama will need some strategery to fix this problem. Right now, he's polling lower than George W. Bush. Can't make this up. President Obama sitting at a 49% approval rating, and President Bush, even though he was well below the Mendoza line, if you're a baseball fan, which is 50% in politics, he now sits at 52%. Explain this to me, Dominic.
It's real simple. The sitting president of the United States, people always look more negatively at the current president, and as they leave office and as time goes on, they're looked at more favorably. I mean, but think about this, Richard. Think about this. If you're President Bush, I mean, you're sitting pretty tonight. I mean, you started the war in Iraq. It's cost Americans trillions. And the current occupant of the White House is taking all the blame for the war that you started.
But then that begs but it begs the question, Andrew. Do you think people's memories are just so short, or do you think that they just say, no matter who it was, maybe with the exception of Nixon, I wasn't a bad guy?
There's a part of me that legitimately wonders if people read the question the right way, because George W. Bush ain't done nothing to me lately. I mean, he hadn't screwed up my life at all in the last 7 years.
And he's laid low. He hasn't criticized the sitting president like Cheney and the rest.
If you're asking me if I have a favorable view of George Bush, I mean, lately he's been fine. He's been terrific. He's been much better as an ex-president than a president. So yeah, I'm going to give him a positive score. Whereas Obama, it's more day to day, and there's more.
But you saw with Bill Clinton. You saw with Bill Clinton when he left office compared to, forget about now even, but even only a few years after he took. Do you think it's because people measure the current occupant versus the image that they had most fond of the previous one, or do you think it's just like, hey, I don't remember what the guy did, but he couldn't have been worse than this?
I think people tend to forget some of the downside and some of the impact of the downside. I mean, Richard Nixon was buried in positive numbers when he was, and given glowing obituaries, and you know.
I'm about glowing, but yeah.
No, he was. He was hailed as the foreign policy president, and going to China, casually forgetting about that incident at the hotel in Washington.
Oh, yeah. Watergate. Can you explain this?
It's very simple.
Did it drive you crazy when Bill Clinton's approval ratings were through the roof only a few years ago?
Look, I mean, he's the most popular ex-president in modern history here, and it's because he's out of office for a very long time, almost 20 years. So that's what I mean. Look, time heals all wounds.
But yet, Jeb ain't going to be dying to bring George out on the trail with him.
No, but I think.
But my point is, if he's such an asset, why are Republicans, nobody's saying, bring back Bush, you know, or let's bring George Bush here to.
There's a certain extent of criticism that will come into play, but I think you will see George and Jeb together. Absolutely. I think it would be a mistake for Jeb not to have George involved somewhat in his campaign.
But if he takes that poll and says, well, that gives me all the proof I need that I should bring George back onto the poll, that's a misread.
Totally.
I mean, that will come back very quickly, as will Bill Clinton's negatives come back the further we get into the Hillary Clinton campaign.
All right, let me start this way and go around the table. This one, an interesting debate, and I think the school, and this is coming out of New York City, I think the school had their heart in the right place, but the question is, did it make sense to the head? Exclusive private Fieldston School. They're having 3rd through 5th graders separate into groups, not for the whole year, but for part of the year, segregated by race, so that they can talk about issues unique to their own race. Multiracial is also an option, but there'll be 5 45-minute sessions throughout the semester, and then group discussions. So you're going to break the Asians in one group. I think you're also going to break off Latinos, or I think maybe more even narrow to Puerto Ricans, Jewish kids in another one, African Americans in another one. You like the idea? I mean, if you think about it, we have African American studies. You can even major in that in college or whatever, Asian studies. I'm not picking a demographic, but my point is, I guess the argument is that you embrace your own private culture so it doesn't get washed. But on the other end, wasn't this all supposedly about integration here, and that everybody was doing the same classes, doing the same thing, and the color gets checked before you walk in the door? I mean, how do you feel about it?
I think it's an experiment, and I think
if you were the parent of one of the kids in class, would you like it?
I certainly think I would be interested in seeing the result. It's new, so people don't really like to change. But I would be interested in seeing the result. I think part of this is to build up the self-esteem and confidence of the individual ethnic groups. I mean, let's face it, we're supposed to be a melting pot in America. We're really much like a salad. You got the Irish Day Parade, you got the African American Day Parade, the Hispanic Day Parade. So we celebrate our cultures. and we celebrate our differences too. So I think this is one of these things where you're trying to explain to each other the benefit of the culture and strengthen the culture and self-esteem, and then talk about it as a group.
Andrew, if at 2
salad?
o'clock,
A salad?
Yeah,
The
leave
greens
it.
and the
All right.
Potatoes and over here.
If little Andrew at 2 o'clock was told we're going to break you off and put him with the other Jewish kids for 45 minutes, would you be like, okay, or would you say, what are you doing?
I would say, what are you doing? I mean, first of all, I would like it to be phrased a little more delicately. but putting that aside, I think we tend to segregate ourselves so much in the overall society, and I'm not speaking. I mean, there are, just think back to college experiences. There are Hillels on campus. There are black groups and Asian groups,
Yep.
and even casually outside of those official structures. We tend to hang out with our own. We tend to associate with our own.
Look at the lunchrooms, right?
Yeah, and so I actually think that these schools, whether it's college or elementary school, provide an opportunity to foster greater multiculturalism and greater understanding. We get enough, I think, of our own group's understanding in our regular lives. I think we need more opportunities to sort of mingle and learn other experiences.
When I was thinking, when we were talking about this as a topic, Dominic, we were talking yesterday about the school district you call home, East Ramapo. If somebody suggested there, for this 45 minutes every day, you would see the kids go here, you African American kids go here, you Latinos go there, would it be taken differently than because it's an elite private school that they're trying to do something? And again, I think their motives were good here. I don't think they were trying to create segregation in the school, but I don't know. I thought if you switch it to East Ramapo, we're having a different conversation.
Maybe I can't hide my utter disgust because it's Friday evening. And Counselor, you were so eloquent in stating, perhaps I want you to look at this. I'll give the other perspective. This has got to be the dumbest idea I have ever seen in my life. With all of that money at Fieldston, they need to put it in some other group and not put it in terms of this for some rocket scientist that came. Okay, so we want to teach them now to be racist starting in the third grade.
Well, let me play devil's advocate. Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate. They're not telling them to be racist, but they're trying to tell the Asian kid, hey, you going through certain things here because you're feeling ostracized. Here's your group to go talk about what's going on.
Right. Richard. Let's be honest. When we leave here tonight, are the five of us going to dinner, or is it more likely I'm going to go to dinner with people? Well, four of us. I said five. I told you. Friday.
It's Dominic's imaginary friend over here.
My imaginary friend.
Me twice.
Okay, the truth is, we don't like to admit this, but even people watching us at home right now, you basically stick to your group in life. I mean, you stick to the people that so black people really don't associate, for the most part, with white people, and white people, for the most part, don't associate with black people.
Well, it doesn't help when you call me and Andrew you people all the time. Yeah.
Come on. What we're supposed to be about
Well, then,
inclusion.
to that argument, the school's trying to. Whatever. I'm with you. I think it's a dumb idea. I tried hard.
Another PhD and start all over again, because this has got to be the dumbest idea
you wore
I've
them
ever heard in my
down.
life.
I'm agreeing with you. I can't believe you devil's
How do you
advocate.
really feel?
All right.
How do you really feel?
Give it a chance.
Coming up next here, we're going to turn to a more serious issue, and it's a story you're only going to see here because we had to go behind the walls of a maximum security facility to bring it to you. Sing Sing, right in the heart of Westchester County, and it's a place that can tear the heart out of most men here. We're going to tell you about a program called Hudson Link that's helping inmates earn their college educations, and something even more than that, hope for them, and maybe a little pride for the families.